government's policies that have been attacking people with disabilities. And I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of people talk about, in detail, about the pernicious ways, wicked ways, I would say, that these people are impacting on people's lives. One of the reasons why I'm here today is, this is personal for me. I had a friend who was sanctioned by ATOS previously and lost her care and lost benefits and lost really all hope in the will to live and committed suicide. So it's a really serious issue. We still need to get the message out that people who work at ATOS or Maximus, following orders is not enough.
Absolutely.
You know, the government and this country has completely lost its moral compass. We should be protecting the vulnerable and protecting the weak. And the amounts of money being spent are obscene. And I say, not in my name.
Yep.
So, I know there's lots of people who want to speak and lots of things going on. It's quite a cold day, so I wondered, would you join me in singing We Shall Overcome?
Yes.
Because it's really important that people feel that there is hope and that there's the possibility of change. There's always the possibility of change. We don't have to accept it. It's wrong. We don't have to accept it. So we need to warm our spirits up. And if you would sing with me the old spiritual We Shall Overcome, which I think is still appropriate. And I will start. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. And I know deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We're on to victory. We're on to victory. We're on to victory someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome. So that we're going to overcome Maximus. And again, we'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. Sing up, let them hear you. We'll walk hand in hand someday. And I know in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Let's lift the spirits of our disabled brothers and sisters. We are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are not afraid today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we are not afraid today. Let's shame them and tell the truth. The truth shall make us free. The truth shall make us free. The truth shall make us free.
wobbling. Oh no, there's a window from industrial.
Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome, yes!
Yay!
Thank you for your solidarity.
Well, there's a window open in industrial.
Thanks, Carol. That was even worth getting a shower from.
And it's about all the marginalised people, the rough sleepers, the people who are chucked out of their houses because they can't afford the bedroom tax. And it's about hostile buildings, spikes in doorways, and buildings like this one, which I found out today, doesn't even have disabled access. There's homes called Spike. There's a spike in the figures today. Rough sleepers are up in the early dawn before the cleaners come to clear out the cans and bin the burger boxes. Before the real people come. The ones who count. The ones who work. The ones who earn. The ones who pay. Pick up your bed and walk away. There's a spike in the figures today. Poor people are up in the early morning before the bailiffs knock to clear out the beds and change the locks before the real tenants come. The ones who rent, the ones who work, the ones who earn, the ones who pay. Pack up your stuff and go away. There's a spike in the figures. Spike in the figures today. The disabled are up in the late morning, waiting in line for a face-to-face, the face behind glass. And the glass says, go away. These jobs are for the real people. The ones who fit, the ones who work, the ones who earn, the ones who pay. Fold up your forms and go away. When the afternoon comes on, and the rain cracks in, and the unemployed go home, and time drifts by. There are spikes in the doorway at dusk. They have flown there all day like little silver bulbs in the concrete, and the spikes say, go away. This space is for the real people, the ones who fit, the ones who rent, the ones who work, the ones who pay. Take up your wheels and go away. And the night comes on, and the rain sets in, and the clubbers come out in their sleeveless shirts, and there's a man on every doorway, and the man says, go away. This club is for the real people, the ones who fit, the ones who join, the ones who work, the ones who spend. Pick up your bags and go away. There's a man on a bench tonight, worn out by the world, in sleep. No one wants this man. The spikes are pierced his feet. He's down and out in London and Leicester and everywhere. For the real people, the ones who count, the ones who rent, the ones who fit, the ones who join, the ones who work, the ones who earn, the ones who pay, the ones who spend, and the ones who kneel, and the ones who sing, and the ones who chant, and the ones who pray. They're all asleep in the deeper night. The Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I don't really represent anyone except myself, but I'm a healthcare professional who helps people with their appeals. And I apologise in advance if I say anything which reveals my ignorance of the experience of disabled people, because I'm not currently disabled, and so I'm really sorry if that happens. Okay, I help people with their appeals by interviewing them and doing physical examination. It takes about an hour and a half usually, and it often turns out that doing the same test at the start and the end of the session means you get completely different results, because people at the beginning are able to do certain things, and then after an hour or so they're not able to do them because they're not able to sustain that sort of thing for that long. And another thing is that there are tests which, won't even show as positive until you've done like 3 different sessions that show that people have got a problem. Now, the government policy needs to be based on evidence. It's not popular for the government policy to be based on evidence nowadays. There are thousands of people who are well trained, skilled, experienced, who could do tests that would possibly be able to assess this sort of thing. But I don't think they're up there. And the kind of tests that were done by Maximus are generally medically irrelevant. As a healthcare professional, you have to place the needs and the well-being of the patient at the centre of your attention. Nothing can distract you from this. It may often be that meaningful paid employment is possible for them, but often it isn't, in which case they need financial support. And this needs to be decided upon accurately. The degree of stress caused by assessment can be extreme, and this in itself will exacerbate some medical conditions. People want to work, they want to feel valued, they want to make a difference. This system seems to assume that they don't. We also need to recognise that people are priceless, they are of infinite value, and we are obliged to support them if they can't support themselves. We are social animals, it's what we do. Basic conditions upon that is therefore inhuman. We're living in a society based on money, so everyone needs money. So they should have it, unconditionally. It's as simple as that. And finally, there are those who are paid to do these tests. And in future, these people may be disabled right now, but in future they may become disabled. And that's not a threat, by the way. So maybe if that happens, they will come to understand what it's like to be on the other side of this situation, and understand the anguish and woe that resulted from their work. We are all either disabled or potentially disabled, and it can be just around the corner for any of us. So these tests are a health hazard, they fail to recognise the value of their victims, and they're not released into society, so let's send them now.
Well, as a disabled person being epileptic and dyslexic, it's been a bit of a struggle for me for some time, but we mustn't forget that Maximus's aim primarily is to actually make as many people, get as many people off the books as being disabled as possible. The aim is money at the end of the day. And we mustn't forget that, like, at the same time that, like, they can succeed if we let them. But I say personally, I've got no more tolerance to give in this. I don't feel that, like, I can actually do this standing alone. There will be more people by the middle of, or by the end of this decade, if they continue to harass and intimidate innocent disabled people. That's what it comes down to. These people do want to work, but it isn't that straightforward with 0-hour contracts and all the other crap that's going through the government's legislation at the moment. And I'm not just talking about things like that. There are so many other things. Complex situations which you don't actually cure it with the complete free marketisation that we're seeing at the moment. I've got actually here, this is something out of the Guardian, and it says churches say benefit regime is unchristian. Well, that's picking up in the newspapers at the moment. It's not just the Guardian or the Observer, or these so-called, left-wing papers, it's beginning to have an impact because people are beginning to see the side effects of what's happening. And at the end of the day, we mustn't forget, at the end of the day, we can actually see Maximus actually. It doesn't take much to stop these things from happening. But we mustn't forget they could still succeed, by knocking the confidence out of us. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they're not going to knock it out of me. We're going to stand together, we're going to make it absolutely clear that we're not prepared to tolerate this, because this is going back to the Victorian way of going on. It's like some of the stories I've heard. I mean, we all know these stories we're talking about. I won't waste any more time actually saying anything about basically, this is coming from Paul, by the way. I've written this down. I feel like weekend. So what I'm saying is that it's like something out of a Dickens novel. I never personally would have believed that this would have happened, and it's up to us collectively together stand and defeat these bastards called Maximus.
Thank you.
Is this on? Yeah.
It's on.
Right, well, good afternoon everyone. I was struck by something, is this still working?
Yeah.
Yeah. Struck by something that lady earlier on who joined us in that chorus of "We Shall Overcome" but got such a marvellous reaction from upstairs. She said about the friend of hers that was driven to suicide by the whole regime and the whole sanctions and cuts and everything else. Let's just be quite clear. That person and many others like them did not commit suicide. They were murdered by David Cameron and Ian Duncan Smith. I'm just going to bring something up on my phone I saw just 2 minutes ago. Somebody called Sundancing Paul has tweeted, "Atos have gone, now there's a new contract killer hitting the disabled." That's exactly what these people are. They are hired to take people off benefits, to leave people with nothing, with no money to live on, no food to eat, no clothes on the back and no roof over their heads, and they are contracted by this government to do that. This government is not even bothering to hide their agenda anymore, so making it perfectly plain what they're doing. But if you're not one of their rich cronies, then you don't count, and you'll be crushed and crushed and crushed until you can't protest, you can't do anything about it. And by standing together in solidarity today, along with people up and down the country, we can send a message saying, no, we know what you're up to, we know your agenda, we're not going to be crushed, we're not going to be in a position where we can't fight back, we will continue to protest, we will continue to fight back, we will fight and fight and fight. We shall overcome. Thank you.
Greetings and solidarity from Unite the Union. We were here last year at the ATOS demo, and since then you got rid of ATOS. I'd like to say that Unite the Union up and down the country is supporting DPAC today again. Our position is it doesn't matter that yet another private profit-driven company is taken over. What's wrong with it is the actual system they're using. Because the work capability assessment remains the same, as people have said. We want to see an end to that. We want to see disabled and sick people treated with dignity and respect. We want to see that single assessment back in the public sector where it should be, and we want one-to-one support to help those who want to find work in the proper way. We're fed up with this intimidation and of claimants. We're fed up with the intimidation of activists who support claimants. Only 5 weeks ago, a comrade of ours in our borough went in to support a vulnerable claimant in the job centre and was ended up arrested by the police for threatening behaviour. He'd done nothing. It was just the job centre manager paying them out. We're going to see more of this. It doesn't end with a general election on May the 7th. We've got to carry on, and what we in Unite Community Branch in Leicester want to see, we want to work together with claimants, together, to band together, to build a proper support system for claimants, because there's going to be more and more of us when the young people get hit as they've been threatened with workfare. We're having a public meeting on the 19th up at the Secular Hall. We're having a demo outside the job centre. I hope some of you can get along to that. We want to build up a proper support network for claimants, with advice and local support. Anyway, solidarity from Unite the Union. Thank you.
Good.
Community Leicester. My daughter is a Assistant Vice Bureau Advisor in Birmingham. So she's like in the front line of people coming without money, with problems with the law, with problems with benefits. She sees lots of disabled people as well. And she talks to me about her everyday experience as a Citizen Vice Bureau worker. So I get lots of stories about people and people's situations. So when she stopped talking about the details, which she's liable to do at great length, she talked to me about two principles that she thinks guiding current policy, not only to disabled, but to all of us, really. One is that every grant is conditional. The idea of right, or the idea of a safety net for everybody is gone, always goes. It will go even more when we get to the full introduction of universal credit, by the way. The whole principle of that is there is no right. There are no rights to relief. All that is conditional. Conditional particularly on one thing. Give you one guess. Working. So the second thing is working is the criteria. How much you work. And we know work's not easy to get now. We know work is very casual. We know we can now talk about the precariat. That is a whole lot of workers who have no really secure jobs. The old idea of those big industrial jobs that people could rely on, most of those have gone. And what we have is casual work for a very large section of the working class indeed. Casual work. Okay, so we've got those two changes. Think about disability. Think about disability in the context of the end of rights and welfare and the need to work. And you can see how disabled people are in a critical position in this system. It's critical for us to support disabled people because they're right at the centre of this. They're people who genuinely can't work, and they're people who ought to have the right to relief because they're citizens, they're part of our society. So that's why, for me personally, and for Left Unity as a party also, by the way, the disability issues locally and nationally are particularly important. Why there's a bit of a stress on disability in our local branch, and also why nationally we have a disability caucus. It's not just for disabled, it's for everybody. Okay.
You.
Hi, my name's Tessa. I'm a socialist, so I'm a member of PCS, the Public and Commercial Services Union, and that's the union that organises workers that work for Maximus. And my mum's disabled, and for her, what's hit her has been the taking away of the mobility allowance. She is unable to walk very far without a car. The car's been taken away. She is basically bound to the home. What's changed? Why can now disabled people not be afforded a car, not be afforded the money to live on? The banks and big business have had their crisis, and now we're the ones paying for it. And the Tories and the Lib Dems and their rich friends are happy for themselves to have wage rises, to pass their policy through, and Labour have signed up to it, have signed up to the austerity, and they will continue to make these cuts. And they have gone after the most vulnerable first, they have gone after the disabled. But that does not mean they are not attacking the rest of society. They're taking away our services, they're taking away our wages, our living conditions. They are attacking all of us. And we need to stand strong and stand united. And we need to say that this is not good enough. That we need an alternative. and that we're not just going to stop here, that we are going to fight and organise for an alternative to this system, to this capitalist system of the banks and big business, because we are fed up of seeing people die and trodden on and live in misery. A number of us will be standing the elections against the main parties, saying that the austerity should not be made. We're standing as part of the trade unionist and socialist coalition, and that is our principle, that working class people and poor and unemployed should not pay for this crisis. And it's not just in this country, is it around the world? People are starting to move and people are starting to rise up, and we know that it is not just us, that it's not just us here today, that we represent the views and interests of millions and billions of people around the world, millions of people in this country. And if they see people taking a stand, then they too will realise there are people who are going to stand up for them, and that maybe they too should take a stand themselves. So whilst there's a handful of us here today, we're taking a great step and we'll build towards much bigger things in the future. Thank you.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
I am not from the Leicester area. I'm from Coventry, but throughout looking on the internet, I realised this was the one nearest to me, and this is an issue that's quite important to me as well. So, well, where do I begin? Actually, yeah, here it is. On them £2 coins, there's that special year, 1807. That's the year slavery ended. Well, so we're believed. Now, looking all around you, especially with this IDS, Ian Duncan in shit. That's who he is. You know, it's coming back. You know, it's, in a way, this is legalised slavery. And sadly, it's for disabled people who are going to be paying the price. But, you know, not just them anyway. It's people like them, you know, the big boys on the top. How far are they up their own arses? I mean, you know, like, obviously you've got to mind your language, but, you know, when you're this pissed off, you can only take so much. Well, words cannot describe. Obviously, I'm a little bit nervous because this is my first ever demonstration. But 1807. That was the year that slavery was supposed to end, but it's not. You know, it's eugenics all over. This is just a more polite version of eugenics.
Hey.
They have their way. They're going to be coming up to you slowly. Well, neoliberalism, you know, that's a big bad thing, isn't it? Well, there's only one thing that beginning where we should all shout. Go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a very quick one. I think it's been mentioned before, the wider issues here and linking different campaigns together. I think what we should remember is in 2008 there was a crisis in capitalism. As part of that, wealth has been transferred to the wealthy, the already wealthy, from the poorest in society, the most vulnerable in society. And that's happened across the world, and people are realising that now. People are realising that in Spain, people are realising that in Greece, and realising that here. And what we're facing is a multi-pronged attack. We're facing an attack on workers' rights, facing an attack on public services, our NHS. We're facing attacks on the most vulnerable and disadvantaged people in the society, whether they be disabled, whether they be the homeless, whether they be people who are unemployed. I think it's very important for us to recognise that all of these struggles are linked together and they're not in isolation, and we can't concentrate on our own little areas to the exclusion of everyone else's struggle. It's just a quick note that I'd just like to make. Thank you.
I speak representing the students of Leicester College and NUS more generally, and we've had a particularly appalling experience. Last year the government announced it was going to be trying to cut DSA, which is just the most cynical of all of their policies I've ever seen. But it's decision was to try and cut from underneath students who are trying to improve their lives the means by which they could do so. It was just unbelievable seeing as they're trying to get people back into work. The whole ideological base is getting people back into work, and if you're destroying the ability for people to do that, the qualifications people need, it makes no sense. I don't think, however, that this is a calculated and evil response. I think it's something quite banal. It's a core ideological purpose of the Tory party and the whole of the bourgeois system, gradually attacking and withering away the systems which Labour has built up over the years. I'm not going to be saying this too proudly, but I am a member of the Labour Party, and we have to stand up. And I do, as much as I accept your opposition to the Labour Party, and as much we have to get the government out, that was surely the first priority. So yes, campaign within the Labour Party, from outside the Labour Party, but get the government out first, and then we can think about wider changes. Within the NUS, we encounter apathy just beyond belief. And this is the reason I believe the Labour Party is not standing up the way it should be. It's not because the Labour Party is not willing, it's not because grassroots membership is not willing, it's not because the trade unions who back the Labour Party are not willing, it's because what broader society is not able to realise a vision of socialism. We need to campaign more. It's an endless process. It will be an endless ideological process to change hearts and minds across the country, across the world even, and it will go on until New Jerusalem comes. So, yes, we must all fight further, we must all stand together as workers and students and disabled people and recognise that this is a broad attack against all people with different needs. So, solidarity.
One particular story.